Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. We're getting ready for the reenactment of the Canboulay Riots 2025. It's taking place, of course, as per usual, Carnival Friday morning, kicking off at 4 a.m. this morning. Let me welcome the producer of the event of the show, Atillah Springer. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are we doing this morning?
I'm awake.
How preparations coming along for Friday?
Actually, this year has been really amazing. You know, we have, as usual, very young, very enthusiastic cast. Very interestingly, someone came to our rehearsal the other night, and he said, "So where are the grown-ups?" And we're like, well, there are no grown-ups in this. I mean, yes, our director is 80.
Yeah, he's pretty grown.
It was pretty grown.
Pretty grown.
But for the majority, our cast is between 7 years old and under 35.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that has a certain level of historical accuracy because the people who were involved in the 1881 Canboulay riot would have been young people, frustrated urban youth who wanted to make a statement on their celebration being interrupted. And so, you know, we stay faithful to that.
Yeah. Tell me something. In terms of how long you've been doing this Canboulay reenactment, how many years has it been now?
So we first did the reenactment in 2004.
Right.
Right?
So that's just about 20 years now.
21. This would be 21. So I don't know if you were around in those days, but in 2004...
I mean, I was alive.
You were alive, but you wasn't going behind the bridge.
No, well, I was not for Friday, Carnival Friday morning, no.
So essentially what used to happen back in those days is that we used to have a small thing.
Right.
Actually, it used to be outside of All Stars, which is actually where the historically accurate space where the confrontation took place.
With Captain Baker.
And I think it was by 2009, we had outgrown the space.
Right.
Around 2011, we changed the spelling of the play from Canboulay to Kambule. And that is in recognition of the work of that groundbreaking linguist and researcher, Professor Emerita Maureen Warner-Lewis, who, in her book, Guinea's Other Sons, The African Dynamic in Trinidad, she was able to trace the word Canboulay back to a Kikongo word meaning procession.
Nice.
And so we were kind of like, okay, so let's decolonize our understanding of this thing and use the Kikongo spelling, because that also situates the production within the range and the beauty of the African experience in the Trinidad Carnival.
What I was interested about, why I asked how long it was going on, is because I want to know, how do you maintain keeping the age group in that bracket you're talking about, between 7 to 35 you mentioned. I imagine, I know for a fact that there's some people who would have taken part in it, who would have been acting, and they're no longer a part of it. And you now have a whole other generation of people doing it. How do you maintain that interest in the younger generation?
We have auditions. That's one way. We also have very close connections with several schools that we work with. This year, actually, we have students from Success Laventil Secondary School. This is the first year that they're having a drama class as part of their curriculum.
Okay.
And so their teacher, Miss Shania Mark, who's their first drama teacher, she decided that she was going to bring her students to be part of the production. And so I'm saying that we have a very open door policy when it comes to young people being involved in the production. We've also, in years past, have parents who just come and they turn up and they say, look some children for you to put in the production. And so, maintaining that open door policy is challenging because, of course, you're doing a production where people need to understand theater, discipline, etc. But, it is so beautiful to see the process, because what we do is we start with sitting everybody down and talking about the history of the production, why we're doing this. This is not a gig. This is us actually calling the names of people who existed in the society at a time. And so we go through this whole process. They go through their theater training, they go through their dance, they go through their kalinda training. We make sure that every single element that is part of the production is well drilled into these young people.
Yeah.
And so when they leave the production, it might be that they stay with us for 10 years. It might be that people like Keon Francis, he's been there since
Since he was 7 years old.
It's very funny, he was saying that he's the longest member of the cast.
Yeah.
And, there were people in the cast this year who weren't born when he joined the cast of the production.
Wow.
So that's to tell you,
the range.
The
And the continuity as well.
and the continuity.
Tell me, how long do you start preparing for it? If you go through such a lengthy process in terms of sitting people down and then getting the specific parts right, how long do you start preparing for it?
We have like 8 to 10 week preparation process. Of course, we are beginning our process from as early as September, getting into looking at the script, looking at what changes we want to make, looking at how we want to apply the knowledge in different ways. So we begin our process from as early as September. We begin our rehearsal process, depending on the length of the season, at least 8 weeks before we go on stage. And we have rehearsals 3 times a week. And that is, a super intense process.
It is.
Super intense process.
8 weeks or 3 times a week?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's hardcore.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in between that, we're also doing workshops. We're also doing performances. We're also, so
plenty work.
it's a lot of work.
Now, I want you to explain to the public, the viewing public, the importance of doing this Canboulay reenactment on a Carnival Friday morning.
So we do it on Carnival Friday morning because we can't really do it Juve morning, which is when the incident actually occurred. But what I find about that Friday morning energy is that, Carnival weekend is about to begin. There is a magic, there is an excitement, arriving at Piccadilly Greens, our call time is midnight. Many times there are people who are already there sitting in the stands waiting because they left a fete and they decided not to go home because they want to just be there time.
I would have to admit I'm guilty of that. I had to do that 1 year because if I went home and sleep, I wasn't making it.
No, exactly. So, we have that kind of energy. We have the arrival of the performers who are part of the traditional mass parade that happens at the end. There is just this beauty and this magic and this idea that, what we are doing is a ritual enactment. So we talk about, yes, we are talking about an event that actually happened, but because of how history documented it, we have the account from the perspective mostly of the people in authority.
Right.
And so the conversation that happens in that barricade on the night before this riot happens, this uprising, this confrontation happens, is really about the community coming together and saying, okay, we're really going to do this? This has implications for us. And so I think that it's important for people to come because it humanizes the people who were involved in this process. We still have a dim view of the people of East Port of Spain, the people of Belmont, the people of the communities that surround who have given our carnival so much richness. And we have to understand why their lives were so difficult. And this is part of what is communicated in this production, that despite the difficult and in many ways horrendous conditions that these people lived in, they still created beauty. They still created poetry. They still created dance. They still created mass. And because of all that they created, we have things up until today that are part of our cultural expression. And so it is important for us to pay homage to that, to pay respect to that.
Is there a difference in what happens on an annual basis? Are there different elements that we add to the story, take out from the story to be able to make it more impactful or more effective? Because I'm like, people wonder, I've seen it before. Do I need to come and see it again?
I would say you need to come and see it again because it changes all the time.
Right.
Miss Entu, our writer, she likes to add lines. So everybody's always frightened because they're like, oh, lines, new lines. But yeah, I mean, there are lines added, there are lines taken out. The play considers the way that Africans consider time,
right,
which is not linear, it is cyclical. Time is a circle.
Yeah. So
we can talk about things that are happening in the now and make it still relevant to what was happening in 1881. And when in the production, it starts where the Pierrot says the barrack yards of Port of Spain still sing humanity's bitter refrain, because there are communities that are still living on the edge, that are still, barely eking out an existence to this day.
Yeah, and when we hear it, we don't often realize that is what's happening. As
Yes.
in the refrain. Say it again.
The barrack yards of Port of Spain still singing humanity's bitter refrain.
Now we call it Trinidad.
Exactly. But how is Trinidad different from what was being
Calypso.
sung in those? It's very interesting. There's that song. Oh gosh, someone else. I hope you find some. There's a line in it where he says, "All I get in is mépris," right? Mépris means contempt.
Right.
But mépris was also a way of referring to calypso, which was the war calypso, right? So whenever I hear it, I'm like, this is a piece of knowledge that is completely gone from our language now. And this is why places like Canboulay are important for us to tap back into that knowledge and remind ourselves that we have always existed in this place of confrontation between certain elements of the society, young black men especially, and the state, who are trying to figure out how to navigate around these young black men and their energy, which is to oppose.
The rebellious nature.
The rebellious nature. And I just want to say one more thing about, I hear people talking about, stick fighting is violent and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, human nature is inherently violent. And the reason why civilizations develop martial traditions is to create a space to ritualize that violence so that you have a safe space to let it out, so that you don't then let it out on the society. And this is why when we are training our people, calendar is so important to how we train people to understand the feelings that they're having in their bodies, When
Elman Warren was here last week, I believe it was, he reminded us that Naria Prue said, mass is dance and fight.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
So it will be, as it was in the beginning, so shall it very well be until the end. Ladies and gentlemen, Atillah Springer joining us this morning to let us know a little bit more about the reenactment taking place this coming Friday morning that you definitely want to be a part of. It kicks off at 4 a.m. behind the bridge. Reach there by 3 if you want to get a seat.
Not going to get seat.
Yeah, it's always tight. And the thing about it, what I love to see about the Canboulay, the reenactment, is that so many teachers bring their students out to be a part of it.
We have schools that are sleeping over in the school the night before so that everybody could catch the maxi to come down in time.
I love that.
I mean, it's a really beautiful thing to witness and to engage with these young people. They are really looking for spaces where they can find out about themselves.
Yeah.
And Canboulay is one of those spaces.
Thank you for providing that space, and please continue to do the great work that you and the entire team is doing. Say good morning.
Thank you so much.
Miss Pearl Springer as well. Have a great day. Thank you very much, Atillah, for joining us.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Have a safe carnival.
You as well. We'll take a quick break and we come back with your birthday shout. Stay tuned.